I'm Christina Brown, and this is Our Take on Arise TV, a talk show focused on the topics and stories related and of interest to women. And joining me today as my guest co-host is Sonia Sane Nagar, co-founder and CEO of Picky, which is actually a personalized shopping magazine available on the iPad App Store. Hi there, Sonia.
Hi.
Thank you for coming back.
Thank you for having me.
It's a real pleasure. You know, anything involving shopping, I am on board. But just real quickly, tell me, how does Picky work?
So Picky is an app. You can download it from the iPad App Store, and we basically learn your preferences. So when you come in, you can tell us a little bit about yourself, what categories you're interested in, and then every day we're publishing custom content and products that you can buy directly from the app. So it's everything that you could potentially want. It's the shoes, it's the dress, it's the beauty and hair and makeup advice that you might want, but it's all in one streamlined app.
I'm sold. I'm definitely on board, no question about it. But what I like so much about what you're doing, Sonia, is that you represent the growing number of women that we see working and succeeding and really thriving in the tech industry. And I know that we were speaking a little earlier before the program. Talk to me a little bit about how you get your foot into that door when you see so many of your peers are all men.
It's definitely difficult. The numbers are not in your favor. If you go to any tech conference or if you pitch investors, you'll notice very quickly that you're often the only woman in the room. But I think that there are great organizations that are cropping up all over the city to help. One is Women 2.0, which is an organization that was founded in SF. It brings together like-minded women who are building things and provides a support structure as well as content around how best practices have worked for other founders who have succeeded. So I think that helps. But I think in a lot of ways, it's up to you as a female founder to create your own support structures as well.
And this organization, you said, was founded in SF. You're talking about San Francisco, of course.
Yes.
And I understand that you yourself have actually worked very hard to create these types of organizations. I understand you have a Women's CEO Club. That's pretty nice.
I do. I actually have several. It feels like when I was just getting started, women generally, you need a support network. You want to talk to people. And sometimes the challenges you're facing are gender specific, having to do with your leadership style or how you build a team of mostly male engineers or manage a team of mostly male engineers. So it was really important for me when I was getting started to find a group of women that I trusted, that once a month we get together, we have breakfast, we share stories, everybody gets a few minutes to talk about what's top of mind for them, and we help each other. And I think that's really one of the most important parts of having a strong network. You hear about boys' clubs where men engineers or male investors get together and they can have beers, and there isn't some of the social pressures that a female might face in those situations of trying to create a bond. And so for women's support networks, it's really important to be able to do things that we would normally do and to help each other.
Well, we have a very interesting show ahead of us, including a segment called Women in the Digital World. And so I'm really excited to have you on board today to talk to the guests that are going to be part of that segment, because I'm sure that you're going to have some great insight and some great analysis. But we do, like I said, we have a packed show. So let us take a look at one of the big stories making headlines today, and that is, of course, hearing from the 3 young women held captive for almost a decade in a Cleveland home, turning to YouTube for their first public statements following their rescue back in May.
I may have been through hell and back, but I am strong enough to walk through hell with a smile on my face and with my head held high. I will not let the situation define who I am. I will define the situation. I don't want to be consumed by hatred.
I would say thank you for the support. Everyone who has been there to support us, has been a blessing to have such an outpouring of love and kindness.
And we just heard from the three ladies, Michelle Knight, Gina De Jesus, as well as Amanda Berry. With us right now from Cleveland is journalist Kim Palmer, who has been writing and covering the story extensively. Kim, thank you so much for being with us here today. What a very powerful and moving statement we just heard from these three. I must think they have to be so resilient and so strong to finally put a public face forward.
Yes, it's the first time that we've heard from the three survivors since they were rescued about 2 months ago from the home on Cleveland's west side. And obviously a very emotional video and full of really impressive thanks to the community. When you think what these women have been through, it's really impressive that they would come out and make a point of thanking the community, instead of hiding and keeping their privacy.
Yeah, they certainly did not have to come forward, at least in this manner. They turned to YouTube. They didn't go to any of the traditional media networks. Can you give us a little insight as to why they chose this medium?
We've had press releases from their spokespersons, lawyers, and also PR people before, but we weren't expecting to see the women come out in public and come before the cameras. So I'm pretty sure this is the way that they felt safest to do this.
And over the course of the video, no more than about 4 minutes or so, we not only hear from the three young ladies, but we also hear from the parents of Gina De Jesus, and we also hear them thank in large part the community. And I understand that this fund has been set up, the Cleveland Courage Fund, with all of the proceeds going to the young ladies, as well as the daughter of Amanda Berry, who was born during her captivity. Can you talk a little bit, Kim, about the community of Cleveland and how they've come to rally and support these young ladies?
It's been impressive. Over $1 million to date, 9,000 individual donors. I've been told that donors from as far as Australia, New Zealand, lots of donors from Europe have participated. The city has done many things, including a local man who walked from Cincinnati to Cleveland in order to create awareness for human trafficking and sexual assault. And everywhere you go, there are signs and businesses that say "Welcome Home" and the girls' names. It's bittersweet, but we're definitely the city's very happy to have them home.
You know, I actually grew up in Cleveland in the 1980s, where we had a tragedy where a child was kidnapped. And I know there were a lot of initiatives in the school systems. I'm curious, are there many initiatives happening in the school systems today to kind of raise awareness and prevent things like this from happening in the future?
Well, we've had a recent tragedy as well as shooting here about a year ago. So that's created an increased presence by police in a lot of the local schools. All schools are locked down, and there's a lot of education through the Cleveland Police Department, and they've also partnered with the FBI. Recently, as well, we have a new missing person website in the city of Cleveland, and we've had multiple new missing person night outs with the FBI and the Cleveland Police Department, where they actually go to the areas that are most affected by missing person reports and have informational times, and that also hand out information on the missing people. Right now we have about 95 people in the city of Cleveland who have gone missing.
And Kim, you bring up a good point with regards to those who remain missing. As also part of this video, we heard from Nancy Ruiz, Gina's mom, who talked about other parents who have missing children to never give up. Let's take a listen.
I would like personally to thank the Courage Fund, everybody in general. And I'm also saying my community, my neighbors. Every single one, they know who they are. Awesome. So people, I'm talking to not just people, but parents in general that does have a loved one missing, please do me one big favor. Count on your neighbors. Don't be afraid to ask for the help, because help is available.
And again, that's Nancy Ruiz, Gina De Jesus' mother. Kim, is there any insight that you can provide with regards to how the girls are actually doing now?
You know, the word from the FBI, the word from their spokespeople is that they're healing, that they're happy to be home, and then just a continued request for privacy, you know, from us, basically. But I think this video, it goes a long way to show how well they're doing, considering 10 years of things that we can only imagine.
Of course, and naturally, it's very difficult to talk about the ladies and also not talk about their accused captor, Ariel Castro. I understand that he actually has an upcoming trial appearance. What's the status with that?
Next scheduled appearance by Mr. Castro in a Cleveland courtroom will be July 24th. It's just a pretrial hearing. But we're also expecting to see possible new indictments. Already, he's been charged with 329 counts, including rape, kidnapping, felonious assault, and aggravated murder, which does set up a possible death penalty sentence. We're also waiting to see if the state will try to add a death penalty specification to his charges.
Over 300 counts for Ariel Castro, accused of holding the young ladies captive for more than a decade. One of those young ladies giving birth to a child that is now 6 years old. And these three ladies releasing this video saying a huge thank you to the community, but at the same time reminding us that there is a way for all of us to contribute and help, and that obviously is the Cleveland Courage Fund, a fund set up to support the girls that has now raised over $1 million. Kim, is there anything else that you want to add, just to give us a sense of how Cleveland is doing? I mean, I'm sure they want to be known for something other than this sad, horrible tale.
I think about the day that it was announced that both Gina De Jesus and Amanda Berry, who've been very well known in the news, even since their, abductions 10 years ago. My husband said it was like the Cleveland Browns went to the Super Bowl. It was a real feeling of euphoria, and it brought the city together in a way we haven't had happen in a while.
All right,
So,
Kim
so I
Palmer.
guess that's our line.
All right, Kim Palmer with us today from Cleveland. Thank you so much for bringing us up to date. And we certainly here wish the girls all the best of luck. And we are on Facebook and Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter by simply going to @OurTake, Arise TV. But you can also like and leave comments on our Facebook page by heading to Our Take on Arise TV. I'm Christina Brown, and you're watching Our Take.
Bigger, stronger, and more domineering than any other. Elephants are the centers of the animal kingdom, but unfortunately today, they're under attack. Tens of thousands are being killed each year just for their ivory. So please support conservation and never buy products made from ivory, because when the buying stops, the killing can too.
24 seconds. That's what you get to make it happen. You can run the break, find the big man inside, or swing it out and hit the 3. Grab the board, and you get a new 24, just like that. But unfortunately, for endangered animals, there's no reset. Many are now facing extinction. And when their clock runs out, they're gone forever. So please, support conservation and never buy products made from these animals. There's no more time to waste.
I came to Africa to see this. But I also found this. Every year, thousands of elephants are being killed just for their tusk. If we buy ivory, we're just helping the poacher. So please, don't do it. Because when the buying stops, the killing can too.
Basketball, it's a numbers game. But just listen to these numbers.
1 in 3 adults in this country are at risk of developing diabetes.
1 in 3.
Just think about what that looks like in here. Our families.
Our friends.
Our fans.
Let's change those numbers.
Learn your risk factors for diabetes.
Go to dribble2stopdiabetes.com and take the risk test.
It's fast, free, and easy.
Remember, your health depends on you. To learn more, go to dribble2stopdiabetes.com.
Where are you from? And your parents, your grandparents, just how far back can you go? Well, my next guest is the founder of African Ancestry, Inc., and she is helping people from around the world trace their roots hundreds of years. Gina Paige has seen African Ancestry grow to be the nation's leading African-American-owned ancestry tracing company. And thank you so much, Gina, for being with us today.
Thank you.
How does this work?
Well, the process is actually very simple. We use DNA to reconnect people to their ancestries. We look at maternal lineages, mother to mother to mother, all the way back, and we look at paternal lineages, father to father to father, all the way back. And so if I can find your DNA somewhere else in the world today, that I found people with whom you share a common genetic ancestry.
So I come to you, Gina, and I say, I want to know where I'm from, where I'm originally from. I come to you, you're gonna take a swab, a DNA swab. Okay, you take that, and then what happens?
So you actually are gonna do it yourself.
I'm gonna do it, okay.
You would decide, I wanna trace my mother's line. As a woman, that's what you can do.
Okay.
And so you swab the inside of your cheek, and you return the swabs to us. We send it to a lab that, in effect, unlocks the code of DNA that you've inherited just from your mother, and her mother, and her mother. And then my co-founder, Dr. Rick Kittles, then analyzes your DNA against the world's largest database of African genetic lineages to look for a match. And when he finds your matching DNA within that database, then he can determine the present day country in Africa, as well as the ethnic group or groups in that country with whom you share ancestry. And the time frame of that analysis is 500 to 2,000 years. So what we're trying to do is answer the question for people of African descent: where was my family before North Carolina, before Mississippi, before Jamaica, before Brazil, and place that ancestry not just on the continent of Africa, but within a country with specific cultures and traditions.
And I would imagine for people, obviously, of African descent, you can only go but so far back, at least if you're in the U.S. anyway, because of slavery. What are some of the expectations that people come to you with?
Well, the main expectation is that we're going to find African ancestry for them. And that doesn't always happen, because as African Americans, inherent in those two words is a mixture, a mixing of cultures and genetics. And so for about 92% of the people that take our test to trace their maternal line, we do find African ancestry. But for the other 8% of the folks, we find that ancestry either in Europe or among Native American populations. The other thing that people are looking for or expecting is a sense of connection. You know, this is really identity work. It's not really scientific work, it's identity work. It's about knowing where you're from so that you can know who you are. And so I think that's part of the going in expectation that definitely has transformative results in the end.
Do you find that it is mainly, I mean, the name, African Ancestry, do you find that it's mainly just Black people coming to you to have their roots traced, or can anyone come to you and get a fairly good assessment of their ancestry?
Anyone can come to us and get a very good assessment of their ancestry, but our target is African Americans and people of African descent, because we have no other tools. You mentioned it. I mean, you can look at all the census data you want, but we weren't even recorded as people until the 1870 census. And again, we are targeting people who we expect to have African ancestry, but because we're only looking at one branch of your family tree, we don't know what we're going to find.
And because I understand, I was in doing a reading for this interview, I understand that you actually had a white man from Texas come to you and have his DNA analyzed, only to find out that I think it was his maternal ancestor was African, and then he said, do the test again?
Right, he was like, there must be something wrong. I think you've gotten me mixed up. And he actually had taken a test with other companies as well. So I asked him, what did the other companies say? And he hadn't gotten those results yet, but he never called back. So I'm assuming that while the other companies couldn't tell him where in Africa, they could confirm that it was African.
And I would imagine that for someone like that, that might be really shocking. That might be really jarring. That's something that they're certainly not expecting to hear. For those kinds of results, I mean, how do you even begin to prepare a person for something like that once you get the information back?
That's a great question, and we take that very seriously. What we really focus on is African Americans or people of African descent who don't get African results.
Okay.
And that happens 35% of the time when we're tracing a paternal line. Those lines go back to Europe and not Africa. And while intellectually that makes sense because we know the behavior of slaveholders and slave traders, psychologically, when you're looking for Africa and we tell you Europe, that can be damaging. And so when you order the test, we tell you there's a 35% chance. When you get the test, we make you check off that you know that there's a 35% chance. And then when we communicate the results, we explain that this doesn't mean you don't have any African ancestry. It just means that there's a European ancestor in your broad family tree.
I'm curious how you got started. So there's obviously a heavy technological component to what you're doing. How did you know that this is what you wanted to do or this was a company that you wanted to build?
Well, you know, the community really started the company. It's a perfect example of supply and demand. When the community found out that my business partner was able to do the actual research, the genetic research, he got inundated with requests. So I knew as a business person there was a demand, and that made it a lot easier. But I just jumped in.
Wow. Is there anything that surprised you? What you thought it would be like running this kind of a company and what it's actually turned out to be like?
Absolutely. We don't have enough time for that. But what I will say is I don't think I really understood the significance of the identity play. I thought we'd be giving people information that they could use however they chose. And that's what we do, but we really are helping people to transform the way they view themselves and the way they view Africa. And that is a very serious responsibility and one that has evolved and one that we embrace and we have fun with.
And your company has worked with a lot of notable individuals who have traced their roots. We actually have images of some of them, I understand, Oprah Winfrey, Condoleezza Rice, Alfred Woodard. Condoleezza Rice and Alfred Woodard, I understand, actually come from the same tribe. Is that correct? And where is that?
Well, it's in Cameroon, and I believe that they are the Tikar people of Cameroon.
And what about Oprah Winfrey?
Oprah, we traced through the PBS special African American Lives, and we found her maternal ancestry among the Pele people living in Liberia today.
And Whoopi Goldberg, as well as Judge Glenda Hatchett.
Yeah, Judge Hatchett was a fun one. She actually did a whole show and helped a young person trace their ancestry in order to try and turn his life around. And then they surprised her with her results at the end. And she and I actually share a common ancestry among the Hausa people living in Nigeria today.
Which begs the question, where are you finding most of the ancestors? Are they all from Western Africa? Are there certain pockets where you're finding more versus others?
Well, we have found results in 27 African countries, but the vast majority come from West Africa, obviously, because of the transatlantic slave trade. And then the countries there are Nigeria, Cameroon, Sierra Leone, we find a great deal of results from, as well as Guinea-Bissau.
Yeah, to me, I find it really exciting. I'm first generation born in America. Both of my parents are from Jamaica. I can probably go to great-grandparents. You know, my grandparents, and I know where my great-grandparents are from. And then after that, that's it. Don't know where to go. And that has to play out over and over and over and over. For people who have attempted to do research, they go online, they go to Google or wherever. At what point will they eventually have to go the DNA route? Do you think it's inevitable if you are a Black American?
I think it's inevitable if you want to know where your ancestors were before the slave trade, because again, we weren't recorded as people until the 1870 census. And then when you look at slave records and plantation records, our names weren't recorded. We were property. And so unless your family was like Alex Haley's family and passed along that oral story from generation to generation, you have to use DNA. Unfortunately for us as a culture, but fortunate that we have the technology to answer the question.
To actually do it. And we're actually going to be speaking with a woman who worked with you and was able to trace her roots all the way to West Africa, and she's going to talk about how that was really a life-altering, for the good, experience for her. Well, as always, I always want to hear from you, so please head to Facebook and Twitter. Join the conversation at #OurTakeArise, and of course, remember to leave your comments on our Facebook page, Our Take on Arise TV. And you are watching Our Take.
Ndingululu Chumsila, mna ndingumama owasindayo kwi-cancer. I-cancer eyayisisibelekweni. Thina bantu, imistake yethu apha ikhoyo. Kwawuthiwa umuntu une-cancer, simjongela uba laa mntu ngomso uzosweleka. Andizange ndibe nabunzima kakhulu, ngoba into ebangela uba nditsho, eyam yabhaqwa msinyane, ngoba into enyanzelekileyo kuba ube nethemba xa kuthiwa unento. Isapoti endayifumanayo kumyeni wam, kubantwana bam, nefemeli yam yonke. Eyona nto ndandinayo mna entliziyweni yam kukuba okusalayo nam ndizophila ndifane nabanye abantu.
Lo myalezo niwuphathelwe i-JSI and Livestrong Cancer Anti-Stigma Initiative.
I am Joseph Yobo. Having malaria as a top footballer can be a challenge to my career. This is why I make sure I and my family sleep inside treated nets to protect us from malaria.
My name is Victor Moses. My fellow mate, can you believe? One mosquito net of 1,200 only can save 33,600 naira in 1 year that you would have spent on mosquito sprays.
I am Vincent Enyama. Since my family started sleeping inside treated nets, we don't have to worry about malaria.
My name is Stephen Keshi. Malaria is a serious condition that can destroy the dream of becoming a football superstar.
This makes me a real man. What about you?
Yes, I am.
Yes, I am.
Yes, I am.
Come on, let's kick malaria out of Nigeria once and for all.
Founder and president of African Ancestry, Gina Paige, is with us today on Our Take. African Ancestry is the only company of its kind that traces DNA of African Americans 500 to 2,000 years ago. People can trace their DNA back to the exact country and tribe. Over the past 10 years, the company has traced the ancestry of more than 30,000 people. Also here with us is Sharon Dennis Wyeth, a children's book author who discovered her ancestry was in Cameroon and embarked on an incredible journey. Sharon, what made you start on this path?
Well, I've always wanted to know who I am in a sense, and that had very much to do with knowing about my African ancestry. I started asking stories of my grandparents on all sides, on both sides, from a very early age. Did a lot of genealogy when I became an adult, hooked up with distant cousins who also were impassioned about that, but I had given up on knowing where on the continent my African ancestry originated. It was very important to me to have that story. And then I heard about African ancestry, and I had 4 tests done, myself, my brother, and 2 of my first cousins on either side of the family. My maternal line went back to Ireland. That's something that I had learned as an adult, and I was quite surprised because I always assumed that it was the other way around, as Gina had said. Often that's the case. And on my father's side, gee, go figure, Portugal. The Portuguese were very much a part of the slave trade. 2 of my first cousins volunteered to help me find the locations of Cameroon, the Tikar, the Fulani, and the Hausa tribes, and Guinea-Bissau. And I went to Cameroon eventually.
And Gina, you did say that at a certain point when it comes to African Americans trying to trace their roots, they will have to go the DNA swap route.
Yeah.
You're going to hit a wall.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
There's no getting around it. What was it like for you, Sharon, when you finally had the confirmation of your roots? What did that feel like?
It was really one of the most significant experiences of my life. I had always felt that I knew the story was incomplete, but I'd always felt a sense of discomfort in my identity. I don't know why. I think obviously my light skin may have had something to do with that because I was brought up in the Black community and many other people in my family have light skin, but I felt quite different often in certain settings. I just wanted to know. I also felt it was terrible that I didn't know the location and the names or some little fact about my ancestors. It was as if they had been forgotten. Mm-hmm. And as a child, I took that to heart. You know, when I got the news, I felt a great relief. And when I went to Cameroon, I felt so at home. And it really did, I did experience a shift in my psychology.
When you went to Cameroon, what was the reception that you received upon getting there?
We were welcomed wherever we went. Every place from a school where I eventually became a member of the board and the children entertained us. It was so phenomenal. We met the Prime Minister and then citizens, private citizens. One citizen actually gave each of the people, the 28 or 54 people on our first trip, a quarter of an acre of land to guarantee, in a sense, that we had a place, that's right, a piece of home.
And as a children's book author, I can only imagine it had to change your story somehow.
Oh, yes. For years, identity has been a theme in my writing, and I've written historical fiction as well as contemporary fiction. But this is, I'm able to somehow complete the story, and I'm working on a nonfiction book now that puts all the pieces together. Knowing where we come from and our personal history, I think, is very grounding. And it's especially important for some children.
And Gina, you mentioned earlier that what you've discovered in providing this service, that it's not just about the data, that it is about something a lot more broad and a lot more personal, that inner knowledge of knowing where you come from.
Yeah, and we see it. I mean, the first thing people do is they feel this sense of pride. They feel this sense of belonging. They feel this sense of place. And whenever I tell a Black man that he's Mandinka, he always does like this. Yes. It doesn't matter where I am. It doesn't matter who he is. So we have this longing, and someone put it to me this way: you don't really understand how important it was that you didn't know until you know.
Was that the case for you, Sharon?
Oh, yes. I felt, I knew it was important, and I'd been collecting stories for years, and one day I said to my brother, well, I guess I have to give up, and that was when I discovered African Ancestry. But having the experience and actually being there and smiling at people that smiled back in a way that seemed so familiar, dancing, I just couldn't control myself.
She danced everywhere.
It became my MO. I just loved it. Yeah, I felt like I had, that I made sense in some sense. who I am made sense.
And I understand that there was a reenactment, a Bimbia
Yes.
reenactment, which I believe we actually have footage of. Walk me through this. What was going on here?
Well, we were taken to a place in southwest Cameroon, a small village up in the jungle, a wonderful reception, then taken by jeep to a location near the seashore where we were told there were the ruins of a slave-holding, in quotes, fort. That's all we were told. At a certain point, we had to get out of the jeeps and walk for quite a ways, maybe a mile, through the jungle. There's a path. And the people who were members of this village had taken on the roles of actors, and they reenacted the condition of slavery. It was truly moving, and it was really quite shocking because you feel it in your body then. You're walking the walk, and then suddenly you're there with a human being with a chain on. Then we sat down in the jungle, and they put on a play, and someone pretended to be a Portuguese trader, and someone pretended to be a chief, and then here are these actors, these wonderful people who live there, kind of embodying an experience that had really shaped our psychology. Then they went off in long boats, and we watched them disappear. People in our group were crying. It was really extraordinary. I was very moved. And suddenly they turned around, and there were smiles on their faces, and they got out because they're actors, and they all embraced us. And it was a wonderful healing experience, not only for the visitors who were coming home, in quotes, but to the people who lived there, whose ancestors had been a part of the slave trade. That was a huge thing, to have someone from the area stand up and say, we were part of this. We apologize. This is a big cultural experience, and you have borne the effects of it. It really wasn't that long ago, even though people, I think, want to pretend and cut it off. We are still living out that experience.
Certainly. And I understand that you actually had a name change. Is that correct?
Yes, I did. At a certain point, we were at a wonderful party, but tribal chiefs and leaders had come from all over the country to welcome us. It was a national event, and there was a king of the Tikar people there, and that's one of my original tribes. And I asked if I could have a name, and he gave it to me right away in a ceremony. And of course, I haven't changed my name, Sharon, but it's something that I cherish. Yanke is the name, and it means Princess of the Kingdom and Chief of Women. And he wrote it down for me. It's very, very special. So I think maybe my ancestor was, named Yanke in my mind. I mean, names are important.
That's a beautiful experience, and that's certainly something that I'm assuming you didn't necessarily expect when you first did the DNA swab.
Absolutely not. The Arc Jammers are this wonderful group of musicians, Cameroonian musicians, and they invited a group of us that African Ancestry had identified as being originally from Cameroon to come and see the country and set up a tour for us. And they paid for all of it. It was truly a gift, and it was also a national gift. The country, we were the first descendants of their enslaved to be welcomed home.
Yeah. Well, Sharon, thank you very, very much for sharing your story. And thank you, Gina. This has certainly been enlightening, and I can only imagine how many more people are hoping and waiting for a similar kind of experience. And Sharon, I'm sure one day we're going to see this story in print.
Yes, this is my book now, The Granddaughter Necklace, and this traces my family back for 6 generations. The woman on the cover is my grandmother, and goes back to my Irish ancestor. I also confirmed that through African Ancestry.
Very nice, ladies. Thank you,
Thank you.
Gina
Thank you very
Paige
much
from
for having
African
us.
Ancestry, and Sharon Dennis Wyeth, who used African Ancestry to trace your roots all the way back to Cameroon. Thank you, ladies. And you are watching Our Take.
Basketball, it's a numbers game. But But just listen to these numbers.
1 in 3 adults in this country are at risk of developing diabetes.
1 in 3.
Just think about what that looks like in here. Our families,
our friends,
our fans.
Let's change those numbers.
Learn your risk factors for diabetes.
Go to dribble2stopdiabetes.com and take the risk test.
It's fast, free, and easy.
Remember, your health depends on you. To learn more, go to dribble2stopdiabetes.com.
There's a lot of hidden dangers out there in cyberspace. Never put your personal information online unless you ask your parents and they say that it's fine. Before you log on, don't be hasty. Please be smart with online safety. Stop and think before your connection. Use these steps for your protection. Online safety. Stop. Think. Connect.
I wonder why anyone would do that to themselves. We all need air to breathe, to live, and so does the earth. But we're choking it with plastic bags. Let's stop using plastic bags and give the earth a chance to breathe. Refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle.
I came to Africa to see this. But I also found this. Every year, thousands of elephants are being killed just for their tusk. If we buy ivory, we're just helping the poacher. So please, don't do it, because when the buying stops, the killing can too.
Our Take continues our commitment to promoting the accomplishments of women around the globe, and today we are continuing our look at women in the digital world. Back with us is Judith Awiga, who is on Skype in Nairobi, Kenya. Judith is co-founder of Akira Chicks, a group dedicated to helping women find professional jobs, but also share technology tips. Also visiting us again is Chisenga Muyoya, co-founder of Asikana, which helps get women across Zambia get involved in the tech sector, but also went a step further and created an app that tells women about their rights. Chisenga is in Lusaka, Zambia. Thank you both ladies for being here with me today. Judith, though, I do want to start with you. And Akira Chicks, what was the inspiration behind the program? Why did you feel like a program like this needed to exist in Kenya?
We wanted to create a space where women in technology can feel comfortable, can talk to each other, can grow. When I first went, in my first class in computer science in university, there were only 5 girls in a class of 45. So from there, I could see a need for a forum like this, but I never actually did something about it until I met like-minded women and we formed Akira Chicks. And we started finding other ladies who also wanted a space like this. And after meeting, we had networking meetups, we started a training program, and you can now see students from our training program graduating. We've started high school outreach. So yeah, we have really grown over the course of 3 years.
I'm curious, are there any other technologies like this that are out there that are connecting communities, or is this really one of the first technologies that's helping bring together tech-interested females?
In Kenya, we usually used to just have like one conference that was for high school students. But now what Akira Chicks was doing, it was the first women-focused kind of activity, and using their website to connect women, yeah.
Chisenga, how is it that you're able to connect African women in the tech organizations? Are there specific challenges or obstacles that you see in Zambia that are unique to Zambia, Chisenga?
Well, we feel that a lot of the challenges that are faced by the women in Kenya and in other parts of Africa are the same challenges that we're facing here. And that's one of the reasons why we started the Pan-African Network with Judith and another organization as well.
In starting the Pan-African Network, what were you able to accomplish? What are the specific goals or benchmarks that you had in mind, and where do you want to take it further in the future?
Well, we're just getting started right now, but we'll have an online conference in August, on the 29th of August, called On Web Gathering, where we'll have women from different parts of Africa come and participate. And one of the biggest, because we as a Sikana Network in Zambia have benefited greatly from sharing with Akira Chicks and provided us with a lot of support. So I think that all African women in tech organizations can benefit in that way as well.
What's really interesting, are you, I think I remember that you have plans to train people or help people learn how to do their own development work and their own technology development. Is that part of how you've been able to get the network off the ground, or is that something that's planned for the future?
Well, as an individual organization, a Sikh network, we have started doing training here, like mobile development training and video editing training, and also capacity building for the girls. But on a larger Pan-African scale, we see the organizations in the individual countries would be the ones running those sorts of trainings.
Judith, do you find that there is discrimination against women in the workplace, specifically those that do want to enter these career fields, and how do you help the women navigate that kind of atmosphere?
Well, there is definitely discrimination. Women in the tech field, especially here in Kenya, sometimes they're perceived to be not as qualified as the men, and many women don't really have confidence in their skills because they already know that this perception exists. So with a space like Akira Chicks, finding other women who are in the field of technology who are succeeding actually encourages them, and we share our stories, and that's what really keeps us together, and that's what encourages women to stay in the field of technology. Because apart from just wanting women to enter the field of technology, we want them to stay in the field of technology and impact people.
Is there something about the field of technology that in some ways is better suited for women, in that it lends itself more so to the opportunity to become an entrepreneur, become someone who is working for themselves? Is that the career path because of the long-term effects, because they're not then dependent on other organizations or other employers?
Definitely. The field of technology is perfect for women because, one, it gives them a flexible schedule if you're working from home, and two, generally women are problem solvers, and being in the field of technology requires a lot of problem solving. So I think women are already wired for that. I think technology is a perfect place for women. Yeah, I really believe in that.
Chisenga, you went a step further, I mentioned that earlier, in that you created this app, and it is an app that helps women understand their rights. Specifically, what are these rights? What is the information that's being provided in the app, and why did you feel like it was necessary to create it?
Okay, we created this app as an organization, not as an individual, just so we're clear. So some of the girls within the organization received some training in mobile application development through Samrise. And the reason why we saw it fit to go with a women's rights application is because we carried out a survey amongst our members and asked them how many of them actually know their rights and how many of them actually know what to do if their rights are violated. Yeah.
So what will come next for the app? So you have developed the first version of the app and you have it out there. When you think about where you want to take the app in the next year, 2 years, 5 years, how far or how big do you want to make the app?
Well, first and foremost, we need to break the technology divide, because there are a lot of people like in villages who don't have smartphones that can run this app. So we need to take it, we need to take the campaign offline and have an SMS campaign, as well as have a website and go full-fledged and partner with more organizations as well.
Ladies, I hear you both talking about the importance of women meeting, gathering, sharing information. Judith, I'll ask you this first. Just how safe is it for women to do that?
Here in Kenya, it's pretty safe for women to meet and gather. I guess what we're doing is just providing the platform, because before the platform didn't really exist. We have women meeting in informal groupings, which we call chamas. So women meet and they save together. So what we're doing as Akira Chicks is we're using, because that's really in our culture, women just love meeting over tea, over, So what we're doing is we bring women together now, women in the field of technology, women who are interested in technology, and we just create a space where they can explore ideas, they can build applications, and from there, we hope to see more innovations that will impact Africa.
Chisenga, do you find the situation to be similar in Zambia, that there is no threat, that women are not then being targeted or anything like that?
Well, it is physically safe to meet as women, but then one of the issues that Judith mentioned before was that the most persistent limitation to women participating in tech lies in cultural and social dimensions, where you may feel physically safe, but you may still be discriminated against for participating in something like this.
Judith, again, joining us from Kenya. Thank you very much for your insight, your analysis, as well as Chisenga Muyoya joining us from Zambia. Ladies, you are both doing very wonderful, great things, and please continue to keep us posted about your progress here on Our Take.
Thanks.
And thank you, Sonia, for being with us here today. The hour goes by really quickly,
doesn't it? It really does. It really does.
And I understand that you'd actually heard of Akira Chicks prior to appearing on Our Take.
I had read about them, I think not even 2 weeks ago on Women 2.0. So they are getting the word out internationally already, which is fantastic.
Wonderful. Well, we certainly hope to continue to keep our eye on how they do in the coming months and year. Thank you again. And I'm Christina Brown, and you're watching Our Take. Don't go anywhere.
Ndingululu Chumsila, mna ndingumama owasindayo kwi-cancer, i-cancer eyayisesibelekweni. Thina bantu, imistake yethu apha ikhoyo, kwawuthiwa umntu une-cancer, simjongela uba laa mntu ngomso uzosweleka. Andizange ndibe nabunzima kakhulu, ngoba into ebangela uba nditsho, eyam yabhaqwa msinyane, ngoba into enyanzelekileyo kuba ube nethemba xa kuthiwa unento. Isapoti endayifumanayo kumyeni wam, kubantwana bam, nefemeli yam yonke. Eyona nto ndandinayo mna entliziyweni yam kukuba okusalayo nam ndizophila ndifane nabanye abantu.
Lo myalezo niwuphathelwe yi-JSI and Livestrong Cancer Anti-Stigma Initiative.
It is time now to go from our take to your take. And we want to hear from you and see what you've been up to online. And here is what our Twitter friends have been tweeting. Sailing Totem, thank you, Brown Christina, for the interesting travel talk on Our Take Arise TV. Can't wait to see the video with all the participants. And that is coming from our family who we spoke with, who is sailing around the world. Oh my goodness, amazing images and really, really exciting family. This next This next message from Twitter comes from Soul B River. Our Take Arise TV, great, relevant on the nail topics, colorful presentation, fantastic presenter and co-presenters. And thank you so much. Our next message coming from Ray Baker Media. He says, appreciate what you are doing. Glad to connect. Let's work together to keep our people informed. Absolutely. This message is coming from Facebook. Anthony Sucumbi Walton says, I enjoyed this last hour with y'all. Very positive women. And you know what? We enjoyed it as well. Of course, remember, we are always online, so join in and leave a comment on Facebook or send us a tweet. And you can always, always follow our conversation at #OurTakeArise. Now it is time for one of the favorite moments in the show. It's something that we call Our World. Now we take you to a Kenyan high school in the town of Mosoro, where they are holding a high school track competition and students actually jump the high jump. Look out, there may actually be a future Olympian in the bunch. Let's take a look. Wow. Yeah, I would hug myself too if I could do something like that. Thank you very much to Michael Stewart for hosting this. That is our World video, checking out some Kenyans doing the high jump like it's a piece of cake. And I cannot say, of course, thank you enough for watching us here on Our Take. I will see you online until we meet again on air for tomorrow's Our Take. You don't want to miss it. We have another great show. We actually have political commentator Kelly Goff will be joining us as our guest co-host. And we have some pretty interesting segments, one having to do with sex trafficking, another segment talking about the political rebound that some politicians are simply able to recover from and others are not. So you don't want to miss Our Take on Wednesday. I'm Christina Brown, Kelly Goff, our co-host on Wednesday. Have a fantastic day.